This episode, we have my good friend, Mr. Joe Buck, son of Hall of Fame Jack Buck. Really kind of announcing royalty, if you may. He's just a great guy, very talented, gets a lot of shit, and I don't know why, because he is dynamite at what he does, and he gave us some great insight on what he thought about Tim McCarver, Mariano Rivera, his dad, and you'll hear a story where he almost ended my career.
Yes. Joe Buck. So, Joe Buck, I have become good friends with Joe Buck. The first time we interviewed him, he told us that part of the way he loosens up when he's at a baseball game is he sips on a beer.
I love it.
Sips on a beer, and he should be sipping on Presidente beer. You like that segue? That's why Presidente pays us the big bucks. Presidente beer is delicious. Joe Buck's probably drinking it right now as he calls a game in his head. He probably announces everything he does. He probably announces when he's like taking out the garbage and being like, "Here comes Joe Buck down the driveway. What a masterful job!" That
I love his voice, and anytime I hear his voice, and McCarver for that matter, it was synonymous with a big moment, a big game, perhaps a World Series. And he grew up in St. Louis with his father. Of course he's drinking Presidente beer.
Yes, he's drinking Presidente beer. He loves Presidente beer. You need to drink Presidente beer as well. If baseball playoffs coming up, we got Presidente beer. Football, Presidente beer. If it's still summer where you are, Presidente beer. Beach, backyard, wherever you are, Presidente beer is the best beer to drink. Bottled beer, there's nothing like bottled beer. I'm going to say it. There's nothing like a bottle of beer. It's something that you can't replicate, a nice cold bottle of beer. So invest in your own refreshment now and grab the DR's finest export wherever beers are sold near you. And for lucky fans, we're giving away some amazing prizes. Presidente beer for a year, signed baseball by myself and ARod, Presidente swag, the Corp swag, and you get all you have to do is you have to be 21 plus, following ARod Corp, and at Presidente_USA on social media, and then text your name and why you should win to ARod's personal number 305-690-0485. This beer is 100% Corp-certified and approved. We love Presidente beer. So Joe Buck, I think this is actually the first guest we've had where we're both friends with him, and it shows when you have someone like that who's familiar with both of us. Always a great interview. We did this interview somewhere in the middle of quarantine. I want to say it was around April, so it gives you a little setting for when we taped it. But to me, Joe Buck and the career arc he's had is fascinating because, like you said, a lot of people have given him shit. A lot of people have hated on him. But it feels like the public conscience has kind of turned and turned back in his favor, and people love Joe Buck again.
Well, he's so talented. I mean, they say if you hang around long enough, people start forgetting the bad energy and the hate, and he's kind of getting into this territory. He's like, oh, shit, this is not about Jack Buck.
Right.
Joe Buck is a legend, and he's done about 25 World Series. He's done a bunch of Super Bowls, PGA, you name it. And again, he has that great voice. And here's the greatest compliment I can say about Joe Buck is even if the game is average, I will still tune in to listen to his insight.
Yes. And talking to Joe Buck, have you had that moment where you realize when you're announcing a game, which you've been doing for Sunday Night Baseball for a couple of years now, have you had that moment where you realize, no matter what I say, there will be people who hate what I say, even if it's just completely innocuous? It doesn't really matter. People just listen, and half of the audience is just going to hate you no matter what.
Yes. Well, I've known that for now.
Yeah.
About 2.5 decades.
Right. True.
But the greatest thing about me and Twitter and stuff is people can say all the nasty things. I don't know how to get into Twitter. So
that's true.
Tweet a little bit, but I don't know how to respond. It's a whole thing. So
if you're tweeting at ARod saying mean things, he is not seeing it. I know that for a fact. So you're just yelling into a brick wall.
Yeah.
Instagram, you're on, but Twitter, I can back you up.
My nephew Nick here, who's with me, he's telling me, Tio, which is Uncle Theo, they're ripping you in tweet. I said, yes, I love it.
We need Nick to set up a booklet of just the positive tweets every day and just deliver that to you.
Yeah, that's kind of what he does.
Yeah, briefing. Yeah. All right. So before we get to Joe Buck, a quick word from our friends at Simply Safe. ARod, you own many homes. I know you have the best in security, and we have the best in security with Simply Safe. Most companies will try to trap you with high prices, tricky contracts, lousy customer support. So while there are a lot of options out there, there's only one no-brainer: Simply Safe. Simply Safe's got everything you need to protect your home with none of the drawbacks of traditional home security. It's got an arsenal of sensors and cameras to blanket every single room, window, and door, tailored specifically for your home. Professional monitoring keeps watch day and night, ready to send police, fire, or medical professionals if there's an emergency, and you can set it up yourself in under an hour. Just peel and stick the sensors exactly where you need them, no technician required. All of this starts at just $15 a month, and I'm not the only one who thinks Simply Safe is great. ARod thinks Simply Safe is great. U.S. News and World Report thinks Simply Safe is great because they said it's the best overall home security of 2020. Try Simply Safe today at simplysafe.com/corp. You get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial. There's nothing to lose. That's simplysafe.com/corp.
All right, well, here we go. The great Joe Buck.
You're listening to The Corp, presented by Barstool Sports.
Okay, we now welcome on episode of The Corp, one of our good friends, both of our good friends. He's been on Part of My Take many, many times. He's worked with you, Alex. It is Joe Buck, legend of the game. Great to have you, Joe. I feel like you've been doing a bunch of podcasts. It's good to finally get you on The Corp. You have a podcast of your own. You're a multimedia star, but just like all of us, you're stuck inside, and it's looking like it's taking its toll on your hair.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. The other day, I just shaved it off. We had clippers that we were clipping one of my two sons' hair. It just looked way too mullet-ish. And I said, why not? I got nothing to be on TV for. I got, this podcast. What do I care what I look like in front of Big Cat? And so I just shaved it off, and screw it. I'm married. I'm happy. We've got kids. We're done with all that. I'm not trying to impress anybody. Let's just knock it off.
Joe, tell us what, in the middle of COVID-19 and these very challenging times, what does a day look for Mr. Joe Buck?
Well, let me just tell you, Monday looks a lot like Tuesday, looks a lot like Wednesday, looks a lot like whatever. Get up at 6 o'clock, which I've never had to do, I don't think, ever in my life until these two boys came into the world, and now they just refuse to let Michelle and me sleep. So 6 o'clock, and then just kind of kill time. Now at least the weather's better in St. Louis, so I can go outside with them. We can play on the swings, learning how to kind of ride bikes where they do it with their feet and kind of walk alongside it. But it's all about getting to different benchmarks in the day. It's wake up until lunch, which happens at noon. Nap is at 12:30. They wake back up at, let's say, 2, sometimes 1:30, sometimes 5 minutes after I put them down, and then it's just killing time until they go to bed after a bath at about 6. They go to bed at 7. Is that what you wanted to know? Otherwise, I do podcasts. I do everybody's friggin' podcast. I ask people, and then I have to go back and pay back. Payback's a bitch.
Yeah, that you just described my day, except I'm still in the 2-nap zone. So I have that luxury. It's still 2 naps, but it's like I say all the time. It's just we're running out the clock. We're running the ball on 3rd and long to keep the clock moving at all times.
And any idea of limiting screen time? I get it. They shouldn't be television dependent. Got it. They should all be baby geniuses, and that's dumbing them down. But I'm here to tell you, if they will sit there and watch something, I'll leave it on all day. I don't care.
It just dawned on me, and I'm curious of this. Is there a way, are you worried at all that you are going to get out of practice? Because this is a pretty long stretch that you're going to do nothing. I know usually the spring is your lighter season, but is there any worry that, how do I stay sharp? How do I keep my mind sharp?
No.
None. So there's no practicing. You're not narrating yourself in the mirror in the morning. Nothing.
No, I do that, but that's not in the category of practice. That doesn't have anything to do with 2020. That's every day of my life.
So how long could this go on for before you're like, you know what, maybe I need to just do a simulated game or whatever it may be to keep yourself sharp and in game shape?
Well, I just turned 51. It would have to last until I'm 80. I'm not saying it's easy, but I've either been 2 seats to the right of my dad or sitting behind a microphone since I was doing minor league baseball at 19. There's pretty much, I could fake my way through anything. I'm not saying, I would have all the details and everything, but I could call, which was, I guess, the point of me calling all these videos that people sent me on Twitter, that it doesn't matter what the intensity is of the competition. I can just put my eyes and mind to it, and whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah, let me back up Kat here, because I'm really intrigued with this, Joe. 1989, you're with, AAA with the Redbirds in Louisville. 94, you're the youngest announcer ever to do an NFL game on the NFL Network. And then in 1996, you do your first World Series. How old are you in 96, and how nervous are you? Because it was a big one in New York.
27. Yeah, it was huge because it was the Yankees' return to greatness. I think, for people of a certain age, they just assume the Yankees have been great since day one of the American League, and that there have been peaks and valleys, and there had been a large chunk of time there. 95, but 95 ended in, I guess, 94 they were decent, but there was no postseason. 95, you and the Seattle Mariners eliminated him. It was that a 1-gamer?
5 games.
That was 5 games.
When Edgar hit the double of Jack McDowell, and Griffey rounded third like a thoroughbred and slid it home, and we walked off.
Right. So, okay. So, and the Mariners were great, obviously, back then, too. But this was, 96 was the first year. I was 27. Jeter was a rookie. Who knew how great Rivera was going to be? He wasn't even the closer. John Wetland was. And it was kind of the rebirth of the Yankees. And, yeah, I was scared out of my mind. Game 1 was rained out. And I remember sitting there, and I had procrastinated so long getting ready for the actual game, of getting my notes down and the lineups in and all the numbers I wanted, that at the end I was like, oh my God, we've got like half an hour here, and I'm nowhere near finished. And the rain wouldn't stop. And they called it, and we got to pick back up the next day, was game 1. And that kind of calmed me down. I had an extra day to kind of sleep on it. And by the time I got to the park, I was pretty relaxed. And then you just start doing it. And like anything else, once the game starts, you just go do what you know how to do, and you get through it. But I was nervous. I was frightened of being exposed on a big stage.
Have you ever done a top 4 Mount Rushmore of baseball series that you called? I'd be interested in to know maybe the most memorable, maybe not the best, like from a fan's perspective, but the most memorable for you personally.
Well, I think that would, I know Mount Rushmore, they're all pretty evenly spread out, but it's hard to replace or usurp, to give you the word that came to mind for some odd reason, your first time doing it on a national stage. 96 for me, and there was a lot of things going on. Joe Torre was the manager there. I had grown up around him. He was friends with my dad. When I was a little kid, he was playing poker in our basement with my dad. And now he's a manager of the Yankees, and there he is, and they're winning. My dad's alive. I'm calling him after the last minute of the broadcast after Game 6, and I'm talking to him on the phone about it. And it was kind of like the passing of the torch. I have this great picture because my daughter, my oldest child, Natalie, was born in 96. And there's a picture of my dad holding my newborn daughter on his chest, watching TV, and it's McCarver and me, our faces on TV. So it was like 3 generations, and he's just watching, and I'm on, which was nuts because I spent my whole life watching him do all this stuff. So that, just personally speaking, there's nothing like that. 04 with the Red Sox was unbelievable. 2016 with the Cubs, for the historic nature of it and everything that had happened in this country since they had last won in 1908. And then I think 2011 for me. Those are the 4. 2011 with the Cardinals winning, not just because, St. Louis and all that, but because I had gone through a paralyzed vocal cord that year. I thought my career was over. I'd been through every kind of therapy, and it finally started to come back. And David Freese hit that home run in Game 6 to force Game 7, and my voice was kind of back to normal, and it was kind of the end of the most trying year of my life with divorce and everything else that was going on. Those are the 4 that I think stand out to me.
That's solid. That's a solid 4. And I have to ask, Alex, I know that, it ties you guys together, the 04 series. Joe, when you're calling that series, at what point did you feel like things had changed? Because that's never happened before, a team coming back down 3-0. At what point were you like, ooh, this feels different than maybe some of the other series you've called where a team goes up 3-0 and gives up one game and then they sweep, they finish them off 4-1?
It felt different right after the last pitch of Game 7. Before that, you were just waiting. And I think, I've talked to Bill Simmons about that. I've talked to a lot of Red Sox fans, with the history, you just kept waiting. And I think history, by the way, is the great eraser of a lot of anxiety for that Red Sox team. When Kevin Millar says, it just took one. It just took one game, and then you get another. Those guys, they were defeated. The Yankees pounded them in Game 3 at Fenway Park, and it just looked like a runaway. And it was almost like, this thing's over, but let's just see it. And they were, within a hand swipe of a tag on a Dave Roberts stolen base of being swept 4-0, and instead they end up winning that game, Game 4, and then winning the next 3. So I think any Red Sox fan or anybody covering it was going, this series is so out of nowhere, as we're sitting there at Yankee Stadium for Game 7, that anything could have happened. So did it switch? Sure, but the momentum was all over the place, and it was just hard to get a finger on it, although Game 7 was a bit of a blowout from what I remember at Yankee Stadium in favor of the Red Sox.
So, Joe, you talked about your vocal challenges. Michael Kay had something similar. At what point do you take yourself visualizing the future without, you've had such a stellar career for so long, NFL, PGA, World Series, Super Bowls. What is Joe Buck? Did you allow yourself to go to a place of like, what do I do with my life?
I was a mess. I was neurotic. Every time I opened my mouth, which meant that I stopped really opening my mouth and talking to anybody. I became really unwilling to make phone calls. I didn't talk to any of my friends. It was hard to order a coffee at Starbucks. I was talking like this, and I couldn't get loud. I sounded like Dr. Fauci. I sounded like it was over. I sounded like I was dying, and inside I kind of was, because I was always, I never had thought about my voice. I was always worried about what I was going to say, not how I was going to say something. And when it shifted from, I don't even care what I'm going to say, how the hell am I going to make a loud enough sound that over this crowd in a big moment when you can't keep air in your lungs because it's just escaping because one vocal cord's paralyzed, it just shakes you to your core. So I every day I thought, this is it. And it took family, friends, Steve Horn, who I work with. I can't tell you how many times I turned to him after doing the on camera at the beginning. I went, Steve, I don't know what we can say on this podcast. I'm like, this is effing over. I'm done. I'm telling you right now, I am done. And no, you sound fine. You got more than just your voice. You got things to say. It takes people in your circle to keep you going. And then eventually it started to come back, and it was okay by the end of that World Series. But man, it was unlike anything I had been through before, and unlike anything I've been through since. I'm glad I went through it. I think I have more of an appreciation for what I do for a living, but it sucked.
Yeah, you're also probably glad you went through it because the hair plugs, right?
Yeah. My God, look at this luscious mane.
At what point were you okay to joke about that, by the way? The hair plugs? Or are you not? Am I still early on that?
Oh, no. That's why I wrote a book. I think the best thing I ever did was open up about all that. And then the funny thing is as Alex knows, and when you come out with your memoir, when they're promoting it, they will take like the most crazy sentence that has no context in it whatsoever. So I'm joke about hair plug. And then it's like, you know, I guess you could say I became addicted to hair plugs, which was a joke because I'm talking about how painful. It's the most painful thing of all time. And that's the quote that gets shot around the internet. And people are like, oh, you're an asshole. You're addicted. You're addicted to hair plugs. Like people are addicted to real things. Like I'm not. You'd be insane to be addicted to the most painful thing you could ever go through.
But you have to imagine that, like, of course the internet's going to run with it. I remember seeing the quote, Joe Buck almost loses his voice because he was addicted to hair plugs. And I'm thinking, like,
right.
You know, most broadcasts, like your dad would go out for a beer after a game. You would go to the fucking hair plug place and be like,
right.
Do me up, Doc. Like, you know.
Do me up. I got the shakes. I got the shakes. I need more hair plugs. And if I'm addicted to it, I've only done it it's a lot. And never done it since. But yeah, 8 times. I don't know how you're addicted to something and you only do it 8 times.
Congratulations. I didn't know you quit hair plugs cold turkey.
I did. I had to.
Yeah, you carry around a chip? Yeah, that's awesome.
I should. How narcissistic would I be? A, to get them. B, to carry around a chip as if I kicked some crazy habit. I hated every second of it.
Oh, man, I love it. So something just triggered in my brain when you were talking about your voice over a crowd. Have you had the moment yet where you've thought, I might be calling NFL games with no crowds, and what do you think that's going to do? You're probably going to have to carry a lot more of the broadcast and, you know, fill in the space that usually is used for the crowd and letting the ambiance do the talking. Here's my dog, Stella, by the way.
Nice, Stella. Bite! Sick him, Stella. Right in the neck.
Beautiful dog.
His beautiful dog. Poor thing. As I think about that, it's a bit unnerving. I do believe that if games take place without fans in the stands, for the viewing experience at home, whatever network's carrying whatever, hockey, the NHL, if it's right into the Stanley Cup playoffs, if it's NBA, if it's Major League Baseball, NFL, the television network, in my opinion, is going to have to put some sort of crowd noise underneath it. And people, well, the traditionalists will go crazy. Well, we've never been in this position before. And so you have to make the viewing experience as good as it can be. I've even heard that they've talked about putting virtual fans in the stands. I think making that experience as normal as possible has to happen. Now, you have to have somebody there that gets it and has a good feel for when a crowd and how a crowd would react, how big the reaction should be. If the home team blows something or a bad call, what the crowd would do, probably boo. I think it's got to be a really smart person sitting in that seat doing it. But to me, it's absolutely got to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. It's just going to be interesting to see because I'm sure you will feel the pressure a lot more in those moments when you can't, and I think you do it better than any other broadcaster. Letting the crowd speak for the moment is almost the best thing that can happen on a broadcast because you feel like you're there. So having that not exist, it's going to be very, very eerie.
To me, you signify the importance of the moment and in some ways the event by how crazy the crowd gets. Now, it's not always that way because it's not always the home team that's making the big moment, but there's noise and there's, even if there's deafening silence after a lot of noise, that speaks volumes too. So, I think it's vitally important to have that because it just gives the event importance on somebody's television.
We're going to get back to more Joe Buck in a second, but I first want to talk to you guys about owning a home. If you are paying rent every single month, you need to stop. You need to stop right now because you need to start building equity, building your own personal wealth by buying a home. And the best way to do that, my friends at Cross Country Mortgage. I actually used to work in the real estate industry. I used to think mortgages were scary. I used to not understand how they worked. If you talk to the people at Cross Country Mortgage, they can explain it to you in 2 seconds, and it is super, super easy. And you'd be shocked with how many of you listening right now can qualify to buy your own home and start building that equity and personal wealth. Cross Country Mortgage has that, and they've been doing it since 2003, and they've been doing it in communities all across the country, all 50 states, and they've kept their mom and pop spirit throughout. I talked to them actually on a conference call a couple of weeks ago. They're just regular people out there trying to help regular people like me and you get homes. And you can do it right now with Cross Country Mortgage, ccmlens.com/corp. They make it easier for more people to get the financing they need to own a place of their own, especially if you're a first-time home buyer and you're thinking, I'm not ready to buy a home. Well, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. They help out military vets, people with less than stellar credit, all of you. You're ready to buy a home, and you're ready to do it with Cross Country Mortgage because they have solutions to serve virtually every single mortgage situation. Even if you think that there's no chance, they can find a solution for you, and they work personally with you to get you in the best situation to buy a home. When people want to buy a home or refinance their current loan, they want it done quickly. And Cross Country Mortgage delivers that. They deliver fast closings with a highly efficient process. In most cases, underwriting is complete in 24 hours or less. They partner with top vendors to offer the best technology without the big price tag and pass those efficiencies and cost savings along to the customer. Cross Country Mortgage puts their customers first by providing the tools and the resources for loan officers to succeed with their own offices. They know your neighborhood, they know your state, they know your area better than anyone else, and they're there to help you. So go right now, ccmlens.com/corp. Just go and see if you qualify. It's super easy. It takes no time. Just see, and you'd be surprised how many people can qualify to own their own home. ccmlens.com/corp to learn more about your future home buying experience. That's ccmlens.com/corp to learn more. Cross Country Mortgage LLC, NMLS 3029. Equal housing opportunity. Go to crosscountrymortgage.com for licensing and disclosures. Okay, let's get back to Joe Buck.
Joe, you I know what it is to be caught between Fox Network and ESPN. You're married to an NFL reporter superstar in Michelle.
Yes.
What's interesting is your birthday is on April 25th and your son on April 26th. Did you guys actually plan that?
Yeah, well, I guess kind of, because she was induced. So we could have done the same day, but my ego and narcissism won't allow that to happen. So we picked the next day. And by the way, I just want to announce to the world that my wife, Michelle Beisner Buck, has hair plugs too.
Whoa. Okay.
Breaking news.
I'm just kidding. She doesn't, but
the addiction runs in the family. So you probably the only way.
It's contagious.
Yeah, it's like dating someone who has like motorcycles and tattoos. All of a sudden, you become that same person.
Right. Yeah. Or you start to look like your dog in your case, or your dog starts to look like you.
You gave my dog a compliment, so I'll take that. You said my dog is beautiful. So thank you for calling me beautiful.
Yes. If there's one word I would use to describe you, beautiful. I don't know, whatever. Although I feel like you downplay. You downplay kind of the look. You try to look dumpy, and let me tell you, you succeed.
That's such a nice thing. You're the best. You're so nice. You try to look dumpy, and you nail it.
Nobody does dumpy like Big Cat.
Oh man. All right. So to tie you guys together, first I saw a story that Joe, you once got ARod hurt.
I wish I will find the I have it framed. So yeah, it was a Yankees Red Sox game. I don't know what year. I think it's right about the same time we're talking about, like 2010, 11, 12, somewhere in there. So I'm walking out. I'm with my sister's son, walking along in front of the dugout. And Alex is fielding ground balls at third base from somebody hitting fungos at him. I don't know who it was. Lance Berkman was in the cage. I remember this like it was this morning. And Alex turns and goes, "Hey, Joe." And I'm like, "Hey." I mean, now I've grown up around batting practice. I was around it my entire life with my dad. I know that you don't mess with anybody during batting practice. I don't really mess with anybody anyway. And I'm like, yeah, hey, Alex. And I keep walking. And then Alex goes, "Hey, Joe, is that your," and I think he was going to say, "Is that your son?" But he didn't get to the son part. He went, "Hey, Joe, is that your," whack? And he got smoked right in the shin, or like right above the knee. And the next thing I know, Alex is hobbling one leg out into the shallow center field. And my nephew, who's got kind of this kind of raspy voice, turns to me. He's this huge baseball fan. He's like, "That's not good." And I was like, holy shit, I just got Alex Rodriguez killed. All I did was walk on the field. And so then it became like a thing. Like, did anybody see what happened? Did we see? And I was just kind of keeping my head down. And the infielder, I think his name was Bill Hall, used to play for the Red Sox. Is that his name?
Billy Hall, yeah.
Billy Hall. He's like, "Man, I think Alex was talking to that Fox guy. What's his name?" And then all of a sudden the media scrum came over to me. I'm doing an impromptu press conference about how I bothered Alex during batting practice. Really, Alex was bothering me. And then I go up to the broadcast booth I'm like white as a sheet. And I find Cashman. I'm like, "Look," I said, "Brian, I don't know what Alex's status is. They took him out of the lineup." I said, "I have no idea. I didn't do anything. I walked on the field." He's like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry." He was unbelievable about it. And then the next day in the New York Daily News, on the back, it's the headline was "What the Buck?" And it was Alex grabbing his leg, and then my little picture in it, and it said, "Fox broadcaster Joe Buck says hi to Alex Rodriguez," whatever the hell it said. And I have it framed. It's in my basement right now.
Amazing.
So, Kat, the insight on that was, every so often when Joe would come into town, we'll go grab dinner or go grab a drink or something. And that may have been one of the nights that we were going to go grab some food after the game. And as I'm catching ground balls at third base, he comes out of the third base kind of entry there where the media comes in. And literally, he's not even looking. I go, "Hey, Joe, what's up?" And as I got smoked so hard on a ground ball right on top of my ankle, it looked like I got shot.
I thought it broke your leg. I thought because of my presence, Yankee fans already think I don't like the Yankees. Now I've got Alex Rodriguez, your third baseman, for a Red Sox game at least. Maybe the rest of the year is out because I picked that second to walk out on the field. I mean, you can't make it up.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was great. Really loved it. It was fun.
That's got to
really
be so
fun.
Anxiety inducing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. The other thing that I think you guys have kind of in common and ties you is that you both have had wildly successful careers where you have kind of gone from moments of people not liking you to a redemption of, hey, we kind of like this guy. How, and Alex, you can maybe start and then we'll go to Joe, but navigating that change and trying to figure out how to properly, block out the negative criticism and how much of that actually filters through. Because I think a lot of times people say you can't listen to the haters, but everyone does. How has that affected your career?
Yeah, I mean, for a while, not good because I didn't know how to handle it. And the harder that I tried, the worse it got. And I just did not understand the game, for lack of a better term. I didn't understand that introducing levity into my life would actually make it better. And by beating reporters and those critics to the punch, then ultimately you beat them to it, right? So I think post my suspension, I just came back a different person. I felt like I hit rock bottom. And at this moment, I'm playing with the house's money, go out, have fun. If people are going to hate me, which some will anyways, might as well be my true self and not someone that I'm trying to be. And that never works. So I've just had a lot more fun and haven't taken myself as seriously.
Yeah, and for me, I don't know that ever changes because I'm in a position where half the crowd is going to be mad at the messenger that just told them their team lost a World Series or whatever. That just comes with the job. So it's either, I think at some point you realize you either laugh at it all and realize that in a weird way, it's almost not personal because they don't even know me. They have no idea what I'm about. They don't know my family. They don't know what I do in my off time. They don't know the kind of person I try to be. So it's almost not even personal. It's like a thing. And if you put it in that category, it doesn't hurt as much. But I think for me, it's always going to bother me. I can't act like it doesn't bother me. And it's one of the things that when I came out of 2011 and that whole vocal thing, I thought, I've got the best job in the world. I've always known that, but I'm going to show it, and I'm just going to do what I do. And if people like me, great. If they don't, okay. I'm wired to try to make everybody love me, and that is never going to be the case. So writing the book, going on Stern, going on this, going on with you on Pardon My Take, those are all ways. Me doing a podcast with Oliver Hudson called Daddy Issues and talking about my own insecurities is a way to give people more information. And if after all that they still don't like me, I can't. It doesn't matter. It's either that or don't do the job. And I love what I do too much to not do it.
Yeah. It's a good answer. I also wonder, has there ever been a time where a player has been mad at you for something you said in the booth? And Alex, same to you. Have you ever gotten mad? I'm sure journalists aside, but like a broadcaster, have you ever been like, hey man, I listened back to that. That was unfair what you just did.
Yeah, I mean, look, you play for 25 years, and that's going to happen here and there. But look, one of the most celebrated Hall of Fame announcer who happens to be one of the most critical, but I think fair, is Tim McCarver. And Timmy and I have had a wonderful relationship, and he's a dear friend. And when he would come to New York, I would come over and give him a hug. And regardless of what he said during the game, I felt that was on me. I ultimately can control what Joe and Tim said, as long as they said it and it wasn't personal and they weren't talking about something that's under the belt, which 99.9 wasn't from anybody. I mean, announcers are a bit like umpires. You only notice them when they fuck up. And that part I now appreciate much better, being a broadcaster and trying my ass off just to be okay. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm ever unfair, but I know that when we're doing a game, I've talked to Alex. I've been doing this since I was a kid. I know that when we're up there doing a game, there are players in the clubhouse going, "Oh, shut the fuck! What does this fucking guy know?" or whatever. But I don't really feel like I go into any areas where anybody would be ever really offended, and I don't go there. I remember when my dad, in essence, he and I drove to spring training the year I was going to be in Louisville. When I was 19, I'd left college, and we were driving in a car together down to spring training. And he said, you're going to start at AAA this year. You need to realize a couple things. One, nobody cares if the announcer's hot or tired or whatever. Just do your job and shut up. Don't complain. And two, you tried to play this game poorly in high school, tried to play college, realize that unless you think you could make that play 10 times out of 10, they're down there trying to they're not trying not to make a good play. So treat it as such. And I don't feel like I've ever really been critical. That's not my style. I don't know that anybody would ever go, oh, that guy, he's an unfair asshole. He doesn't realize how hard it is. I feel like I do.
You got a question, Alex? Sorry.
I'm going to let you go, and then I have my lightning round for Joe to close.
All right, Joe, best home run hitter that you've ever seen?
Well, I'd probably Barry Bonds. I mean, Bonds had to pick out basically one pitch a game, and he rarely missed it because they always just pitched around him. So, Barry.
Okay. Where is ARod on there? What number? How far down we got to go?
No. I've said this publicly, and Steve Horn, the guy that works with me, will tell you, if you put everything into consideration, especially the defensive position and how great of a shortstop he was. And then for a guy to hit well over 600 home runs, 3,000 hits. I mean, he's one of the greatest players in the history of Major League Baseball. I didn't see a ton of his home runs because I didn't do a lot of Mariners games and I didn't do really any Texas games when he was there. So I tend to go to the guys I saw more. But my God, the other guy of the three of us, one of us is one of the greatest players in the history of baseball. The other two, you and me,
Greatest podcaster,
greatest podcasters. Yeah, but I mean, it's pure home run hitter.
Jack Buck's son.
And Jack Buck's son. There's a great podcaster who knows how to play dumpy, and then there's Jack Buck's son. Those are the other two guys. I don't. What do you want me to say? 4? 3? 1? I never saw Ruth. I didn't see much. I didn't see much of Hank Aaron. I didn't watch Willie Mays, although he was my dad's favorite player. I mean, he's top 10. Is that good enough?
Okay. All right. Top 10, somewhere in there.
Okay.
I'll give you top 5, ARod. So
Thank you.
Yeah, no big deal. ARod, I think Joe Buck and I need to turn it on you a little bit. What's going on with the Mets? Do Joe and I get any
Mets.
Investment? Yeah.
Meet the Mets.
Get to put in we get to put in $100 and say we're an owner?
We're going to lightning rod and called lightning round. All right, here we go. Joe, these are not meant to be taken seriously, but just fun and impulsive. Let it fly.
Okay.
All right, what song?
Nothing can get a guy fired faster than that.
I know.
So go ahead.
What song do you sing in the shower?
I'm all out of love. I'm so lost without you.
What apps are open on your phone right now?
My Whoop app.
Whoop?
Is like it tells me how I slept last night. It tells me how many calories I've burned. Don't do that. If you get one of these, you won't be able to play Dumpy anymore.
Okay. Whoop.
All right, Joe Buck, book or Kindle?
A book.
Top 3 books that you recommend.
I would say there's 3 of my go-to. My all-time favorite book was A Prayer for Owen Meany. In the Garden of the Beasts was unbelievable, and Devil in the White City. Those are three recs for me right now. And then there was another one that I just finished called like Underneath or Beneath a Red Sky.
Snapchat or Instagram?
Instagram.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
One pet peeve?
My wife picking her nail polish, her defunct nail polish off while we're eating dinner. I can't. It makes me throw up in my mouth.
That's a quarantine pet peeve, by the way. That's like a day 50. You know what really drives me nuts? We all have had those moments where we're like, this isn't real. Like, what we're saying is not real.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just a noise that makes that if somebody wants to torture me, put me in a cell somewhere with the noise of her plucking her fingernail polish off her fingernails.
Joe Buck, who would play Joe Buck in a movie of your life?
I would say Denzel Washington.
What would be your last meal?
It would probably be the media food at Yankee Stadium. I mean, that would probably literally be my last meal.
Describe these people with one word. David Ortiz.
Gregarious.
Mariano Rivera.
Quiet.
Timmy McCarver.
Controversial.
Barack Obama.
Athletic.
John Smoltz.
Golfer.
2 more. Aaron Rodgers.
Smart.
And the last one, Mr. Jack, the great Jack Buck.
Philanthropic.
Nice.
Ooh. You could have just went with Dad.
I could have, but it would have been a cop-out. I mean, I don't know of anybody in any community that raised more money than my dad did in St. Louis for any cause that came knocking.
That's awesome.
Wow. All right, so we got to find someone who did more so we can prove you wrong.
You can't.
Bill
Line 'em
Gates,
up.
ever heard of him?
As a broadcaster,
As a father of mine.
as a father of mine. Yes.
All right, I got one last
Bill
question
Gates.
off the lightning round. So does Yankee Stadium have the best broadcast booth buffet?
No. In fact, when I show up in the postseason, they don't have really anything.
Who has the best? I want the best for both football and baseball. This is a passion of mine to think not about the intricacies of what Joe Buck does day to day and like how cool his job is. It's what do you think Joe Buck gets to eat for free when he shows up to the stadium?
Well, I grew up a
Fat kid. So the former Busch Stadium had some of the best burgers that you've ever experienced in your life. Chocolate milk, hot dogs, all that. But it's gone.
But you were a fat kid, so you liked everything. So we can't.
I liked
trust
everything,
it.
but I'm blaming that.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fact
We can't
that
trust that.
my mom never gave me a salad, clearly, when I was a kid.
I would say football-wise, Green Bay has the best buffet. That or Philly. Those are the two. Those are the two that stand out to me. Baseball. I would go with San Francisco, the Giants. They have a lot of selection. The only thing is at the end of the meal, with the way they separate the trash with compost and then recycle, and then it takes me 20 minutes to throw my stuff away. I don't know what goes where. It's the most stressful part of my day.
Yes, I believe that. That is when you don't know where to throw the bottle and then the paper plate, but it's not a paper plate.
And I don't want to get that look. I don't want to. Hey, that should have gone in the compost. I'm not even totally sure what compost is.
I agree. Alex, you got anything else?
I just got to say thank you to Joe Buck. I know you're super busy. Really enjoyed your podcast. If you haven't heard it, Joe Buck, remind us the name again.
Daddy Issues with Oliver Hudson. I have daddy issues. He's a mess. So just listen to that. When you're not listening to the Corp, or you're not listening to Pardon My Take, or you're not, whatever, watching Ozark.
What a sell. Jeez. Enthusiasm.
Joe
Out
Buck.
the ass.
It's great. It's great. It'll change your life.
Yeah. If you have everything, if you've listened to everything that's ever been produced, and it's just called,
I'm not
it's
asking
just
for much.
what's it called? Or Daddy Issues?
Daddy Issues.
Daddy Issues. If it's just that left, give it a try.
Give it a try.
Great listen.
It may very well change your life. It may do nothing.
Yeah.
You may hate it.
You don't know.
Either way, I don't care.
Yes.
Joe
That is the
Buck,
beauty
thank
of
you
it.
very much, my man. Really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Tell Jennifer I'll get back to her. She's been texting me like crazy.
I'll tell her right now.
All right.
That was a nice move there. Thanks, Joe.
See you guys.
See ya.